Shalom, greetings from Mumbai. Can you make a detailed video on how to convert in Israel? Also, it would be great if you would share the experience of a convert who did conversion in Israel. Thank you. So first of all, thanks for the question. It is a frequently asked question, and I did actually record a rabbi from Machon Milton about converting in Israel. And what I've always said on the channel is it's much easier if you convert in the country that you are from. And I say that not just because I converted in South Africa, but my wife converted in Israel. And it was a balagan, as we say in Israel. It was a mess. And it's only because, number one, I can speak Hebrew. My rabbi is very connected, Rabbi Yitzchak Steinberg. And everyone at the wedding was rabbis. And they all wrote letters. And, you know, I had some connections also. But for the average person, unconnected to an Israeli, to convert in Israel is extremely difficult. And that is why I never recommend on this channel to convert in Israel. Also, if you do come to Israel and you want to convert, you will have to appear before a panel. We call it Vadat Haragim, a special committee. Conversion is also run by the Israeli government, together with the Rabbinut, the rabbis of Israel. And it will take you several attempts before they will approve you to be on the conversion program, meaning you will have to fly to Israel. You have to pay for this flight, obviously. You will have to pay for accommodation. You will have to pay for food. You will have to pay for transport. And then you will, B'ezrat Hashem, with the help of God, you will be able to meet this special committee who sits only once a month. And it's not always certain that you will get in on your first attempt. Now, you have a 90-day visitor's visa. You will appear in front of this committee, and if you were never part of a Jewish community, have no experience in Judaism, they will tell you that you first need to get some experience in Judaism, or you need to connect with a Jewish community. Then you will have to leave the country because your visa has expired after 90 days. Now you could try again. You could come back again, pay for another flight, again for accommodation, again for food, again for traveling, and try again with a special committee. And the special committee is going to ask you the exact same question, which is, which Jewish community are you from? Who are you learning with? Which rabbi? They're going to want a name. They probably, before you even meet them, you need letters from the community you're coming from, rabbis that you have learned with. That's why I never recommend converting in Israel. But let's say you are now living in Mumbai, India. And by the way, there is a Jewish community, the Pardes community. I have a good friend, Rabbi Yoni. I don't know what's his family name now, but he's in this Pardesi shul together with Rebbetzin. And so you could join that community, for example. At least then you were part of a Jewish community, which would make your case a lot stronger. But let's say you don't want to do that. You decide, I want to convert in Israel. You could, if you are male, you could contact Machon Meir and tell them your story and tell them that you want to convert in Israel. Machon Meir has a yeshiva, a place where Jews learn Torah and Jewish law. And they also have accommodation, food, everything. But again, obviously you're going to have to pay some of this, the accommodation, the food. Now there's all sorts of deals you can make with them, that should also be said, but you could contact them. To give you a short answer, first of all, I do not recommend that you convert in Israel because it is an extremely difficult process. The bureaucracy is out of this world. And I'm talking from someone whose wife converted in Israel. I'm talking from experience. And I would first say you have to convert in your country where you're from. If you're in a country where there is no Jewish community, then you should find a Jewish community, even if it's a small one, like the Pardesi Shul, which is in India. And I understand India is a massive country, but that's what you will have to do. Alternatively, you can contact, if you are male, Machon Mir, and you can ask them how can you do this. I addressed this in my previous live, and I do have another video of how to convert in Israel, but through a private Beit Din, which you're going to pay for. And in that video I mention exactly how much it is and exactly how it works, and it's an interview with a rabbi that is doing this program. That's the one that my wife did, which is not recognized by the state of Israel. Then after that we did another conversion, which is recognized by. So there's another question here from David van der Merwe, I'm going to assume, which is an Afrikaans surname. He says it's a two-part message. There's only one part to it currently, and I'm not sure this first part is complete. But I'll read it out. He's saying, Shalom. He's been following this channel for many years, and he's been curious on my current feelings about the denomination difference in Judaism. So I'm not sure that he says there's another part coming, a second part. So the only Judaism you should consider is Orthodox Judaism. All other forms of Judaism is a new invention. After the Haskalah movement, the Enlightenment movement of Rabbi Mendelssohn in the 1800s, that is only when we started being called Orthodox or ultra-Orthodox. Before that, we were just Jewish. After the Haskalah movement, the Enlightenment movement, as they call it, from Rabbi Mendelssohn, the Reform started, Reform Judaism, and they called us Orthodox, which actually means the right path, by the way. And later on, there was another Judaism called Conservative, which is trying to bridge the gap between the very liberal Reform Judaism and Orthodox Judaism. But in Jewish law, if you do not keep Shabbos, if you do not keep Shabbat, then you are non-Jewish for all halachic purposes. You cannot serve as a witness at a wedding, for example. There's also opinions, you can look this up. This is in the Talmud, in Chulin 5a. It's also in the Shulchan Aruch. It's also the way that the Chofetz Chaim, who wrote the Mishnah Berurah, how he paskins. He says that if a Jew that does not keep Shabbos touches wine, you have to spill it, and you cannot drink from it, which is the exact same law we use for non-Jews. If not a non-Jew, my mother, for example, she's a Christian. Currently, she's actually Messianic. But if she touches red wine that is not boiled, lo muvushal, then I have to spill the wine. And if it's boiled, then I don't have to spill the wine. Boiled is muvushal in Hebrew. So that is my opinion on the denominations. There's only one Judaism, which has always been Orthodox Judaism. It's a new label, Orthodox, but that means keeping all the commandments as is found in the Torah, the 613 commandments, many of which we cannot keep. We do not have a temple, many that only Kohanim can keep, priests, many that only the king can keep. But that's the totality of the commandments, and it is our duty as Jews to keep all the. So here comes the second part of the question. He's saying he's part of a kehila. Kehila is a community that is called liberal. That's already not good. But the shul itself is Masorti. Masorti means traditional. He's saying conservative. But Masorti, the word Masorti, means traditional. I appreciate the different denominations, but I really just wish we could get past the anger towards each other. So let's address the anger. There's no anger towards the other denominations. It's just they are not Jewish. So if you do not keep a Jewish law, then you are not Jewish. No one's angry about it. It's just you are not Jewish. If you do not keep Shabbos, you are not keeping the Torah. You are not following the laws that God gave. It's really as simple as that. God tells you should keep the Sabbath. He tells you cannot light a fire on the Sabbath. He tells you cannot carry on the Sabbath. These are all, by the way, explicitly written in the Torah. Now there's altogether 39 malachot that forms Shabbat, and many liberal Jews argue that yes, but it's not explicitly written. Now the tradition until the 1800s was kept intact. No one disputed it then. It's only after the Haskalah movement, the Enlightenment movement of Rabbi Mendelssohn, that these issues came up. Before that, it was never disputed. So it's not that, obviously, we feel as Orthodox Jews, as those that keep the tradition, that many of the people that call themselves Reform Jews, they marry out. For example, in America, it's well known that almost 90%, unfortunately, of America would identify themselves as Reform Jews. Many of them, it's a crisis there, many of them marry out, meaning they marry non-Jews. Many of them marry non-Jewish females. Now, that non-Jewish female gives birth. What's the status of this child? Is the child Jewish? Everyone agrees by Jewish law the child is not Jewish. That you can only be Jewish if your mother is Jewish, or if you performed a kosher Jewish conversion. Now, let's take the other side of the argument. Let's stand now on the Reform side. They say, but this woman did a Reform Jewish conversion. Now it says in the Shulchan Aruch, Yoredeya 268, CF2, it outlines what is a Jewish conversion. Now if you convert, and you say in your conversion that I believe there's one God and no other, beautiful, and I promise to keep the laws of the Torah. This is said in all conversions. But you don't keep Shabbos. You don't keep kosher. You don't keep almost any of the laws that is written in the Torah. Then obviously your conversion isn't valid. Because you said you're going to do something which you did not do. Also, the people officiating on your conversion, they themselves don't keep Shabbos, don't keep the laws of ritual purity. Many of them don't keep kosher. So obviously then they can't decide who's going to be Jewish if they themselves is not keeping the Jewish law. So again, it's nothing, I won't say no one is angry. I would say that when God, who is our Father, tells us that we should keep the law, and you have people that basically spitting in your Father's face, you're not exactly happy with that person, if you get that analogy. God tells us we should keep kosher. He tells us what we can eat, what we cannot eat. They say, no, but we see it differently. Okay, but we believe in God. We don't believe in you. We believe in God. So maybe that is where it comes across as angry. But many of us, we don't consider them Jewish bichlal at all. If someone says they are Reformed Jew, we have a suffix we have a doubt whether they are in fact Jewish or not. Okay, so here's a question. It's on my video, why Jews reject Jesus / Christian convert to Judaism. This, by the way, was one of my first videos when I was still living in Cape Town, Sea Point. And that whole, if you watch that video, I only had one bookshelf. That's all the books I owned. Baruch Hashem, I've upgraded a little bit. So, Jewish Mizrahi conservative is asking, are you Irish? I am not Irish. I am South African, Dutch, German descent. My first language is Afrikaans. My second language is the one I'm speaking now, English, and my third language, Baruch Hashem, is Hebrew. I have been in Ireland. I've been to the Jameson factory. This is now obviously before I converted, although Jameson is kosher. And I like Ireland, but no, I'm not Irish. Okay, next question. On my video, Psalm 142, which we say when hostages or Israel is in danger, Nicole Phoenix 3335 says or asks, I just finished watching your video on Shabbat. Do you answer questions? I in fact do answer questions on every Yom Rishon, every Sunday at 9:30 Israeli time. I do these live question and answers, and I will also send you a link to this video once it's public, once the live is finished, which will then answer any of your questions. I do have quite a lot of questions, so I can't guarantee that every live your question will be answered. But if you write it in the live stream, then it's very likely that your question will be answered, depending on the number of people. But in short, I do in fact answer questions, or I try to. Okay, next question. On my video, Exodus chapter 9, which is this Torah reading that I'm doing. I'm actually using Baal Koreh, someone that chants the Torah. Probably the best way to say it. It's actually called a trop, but it's a little bit too technical to explain again. So Torah reading 19 is asking on this video, oh my goodness, hallelujah, I love your chanting. It sounds like Sephardic chanting. It sounds like you, okay, I wouldn't read that now out loud. And then I would love to chant your style. Where can I learn it? My chant is more Ashkenazi style. So first of all, this is not my chanting. I can definitely, I'm not a Baal Koreh by any stretch of the imagination. I can obviously read Hebrew. Just hold on, I heard there so it's quite rainy here in Israel, and I just heard the thunder. And there's a mitzvah that when you hear the thunder, you got to say a bracha, you got to say a blessing. So I got to do that quickly because I just heard it in the background, yeah? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam shekocho ugvurato maleh olam. And just for people in English, blessed are you, Hashem our God, King of the universe, for his strength and his power fill the universe. There's also, if you see the lightning, meaning you see the bolt of light, then there's another bracha, but I didn't see that, so if that comes, then I'll do that as well. But we were busy with the chanting thing now. Oh, so it's not my chanting. This is from Rabbi Uriel Suleiman, and he's actually chanting in the custom of Yerushalmi, in the custom of Yerushalayim, which is very similar to Sephardic or Yemenite, I would say the closest to Yemenite pronunciation. And the way you can learn it, the way you can learn anything, is you need to find someone that's very good at it, and then learn with that person. Obviously, it's not going to be for free, but that's how you learn it. But you need to be able, obviously, to read Hebrew, which I'm assuming you can do because you're already doing it the Ashkenazi style. And the reason I took this Yerushalmi style is because I like it. I'm Ashkenazi, but I find the Ashkenazi one very dry, and that is why I question. So this was on the video that I recently made, which was about these secret tunnels. The video's name is Secret Tunnels Under Synagogue in New York, Messianic Chabad 770. Oh, it was such a story. Anyway, first of all, you should watch the video if you want to know what it's about. If you don't know what the story is about, then don't watch the video. But I mean, it was in the news and a lot of people messaged me about it. It's a big Chilul Hashem, a big desecration of God's name, what happened there. Anyway, and I explained it well in that video, as calm as I could. So Janice Ridgedale 2904, she's saying it sounds pathetic. So do you believe it was for a study space, room, or what? So in that video, I mentioned that they wanted to extend the building, actually gain access to the building, this Messianic Chabadniks. And one of their claims was that they wanted to make it bigger to study. So they do study a lot. I would say they do not study enough Jewish law. They are too much into Chassidut and too deep into the Tanya before they have filled their bellies with bread and wine, which is what the Rambam says in the Mishneh Torah. Is first you need to know the Torah back to front, Jewish law back to front, before you go into the mystical areas of Torah. We've covered this many times, but there's 4 ways to interpret the Torah. And it's remembered by the phrase Pardes. Pardes means an orchard. So the P stands for Peshat, meaning the literal meaning of what is written in the Torah. Then you have Pardes, then you have the Reish, which is a Remes. Then you have Drosh. Remes is like the interpretation of it. Drosh is the Midrash, like darshaning something from it. And then the final stage is the S of Pardes, which is Sod, which is the hidden, the secret. And This is only once number one, you need to be 40. You need to be married. You need to have children, a son by most opinions. And you need to know the entire Torah. Then you can go into these areas. These boys don't even know the basics of Jewish law. So, not for them, but I do believe they wanted to extend it, and I believe they wanted to. Me and my chavruta actually made a joke about it, but there's a concept called chazaka. If you stay in a place, in a field, for example, unopposed, so it doesn't really work out for them, but if you stay in a place unopposed for 3 years, you have chazaka on the place. You own the place. If someone wants to take you away from the place, they need to bring proof that this is not your place. So maybe they're trying something like that, I don't know. They are, like I said, it's a cult. It's a cult. This Messianic Chabadniks, it's very strange. But I do believe it was a study, a yeshiva, and I think they did it to gain access to the place. Okay, and I've got another question now here on the live stream, which I saw popping up. Anna is saying good evening. Then she's saying, to which sector do you belong? So I'm going to assume she means what denomination, since David opened up this word, denomination. So I am an Orthodox Jew. I was a Christian in the past. I studied many religions. I have a video on my channel called My Life Story, or something like this is the name, which you can watch, which is a very long story. But I studied many religions, a former Christian, I converted, I was in Reform, I was in Modern Orthodoxy, and today people would call me Haredi, meaning ultra-Orthodox. The word actually means those that tremble at the name of Hashem. I would love to be at this level, B'srat Hashem, B'shah Tovah, with God's help in a good time. But I would define myself as Chardal. Chardal means mustard in Hebrew. The word for mustard in Hebrew is Chardal, but it actually stands for Haredi Lumi. Lumi is national. Haredi is the ultra-Orthodox. Chardal is taking the middle path. So we are not Haredi. Like my rabbi, for example, his son is in the army. But they all learn in yeshiva 3 years. It's called Hesder, this program. They learn in yeshiva 3 years. Then I think they have army for 2 years. And then they go again to yeshiva for a year. There's different ways this program is structured. Some people do 2, 2, 1. There's many ways this is structured, but it always starts with yeshiva first, which is a house of learning Torah, Talmud, which is part of the Torah, Jewish law. And after you have this good grounding of yeshiva, then you go to the army, and then you go back to the yeshiva to clean yourself after the army. So I am in this sector, Chardal. So I'm not Haredi, and I'm not Dati Lumi. Dati means religious. Lumi is national, so national religious. Outside of Israel, this is called Modern Orthodox. I'm in between this, which is good for me. I must also add here, all of them are Orthodox, by the way. The Hasidim are also Orthodox. All these people believe you should keep Shabbos and keep kosher laws and keep the laws of family purity. These are all observant people. It's to the degree that you keep it, with disagreements amongst one another about many aspects, but the main, I would say, difference that is noticeable That's oversimplifying it, but I would say that is the main bone of contention in Israel. Also, how you feel about the state of Israel. But I think those two goes together. Just double check I didn't miss anything there. Okay. The next question is on my video, the Talmud or Jewish oral law explained, Bible proof for Jewish oral law. Very good video. A must watch if you have any problems with the Talmud. The Talmud is very much misunderstood by the general public, and I think that video does a good job of explaining it. So David Yosef Aquere 9945 says or asks, nice video Achi. Achi means brother. Have you heard of the Gionic, aka Andalusian Old Sephardic methodology to learning Gemara? So the Gion period is, there's periods in the Talmud. I actually explain it in this video. So maybe that's what he's referring to. I haven't heard of this Old Sephardic methodology of learning Gemara. You should basically, to keep it short, I'm always interested in learning new things, so you can type it out for me in a comment somewhere. Then I can find out more about this Andalusian Old Sephardic methodology to learning Gemara. But basically, what you should do, and I made a video about this, I'm not talking in general, not to David Yosef here. It seems like he has been learning. So, but what I would recommend for the general public in anything to do with learning is first, you should find for yourself a rabbi that you trust and that you've researched and you like this rabbi and you have a connection with this rabbi and you, B'ezrat Hashem, God willing, you want to be like this rabbi. Someone you can look up to. I think that's the way I would describe it. Find yourself such a rabbi. Obviously with the right hashkafa, the right way of belief. Like I said, someone that you've checked out. Don't just randomly take someone. Then you ask this rabbi, I'm now, depending where you're at, because remember in this channel, there's converts, there's people that's already converted, and there's a lot of Baal Tshuvas, Jews, born Jews, that's returning to their Judaism. So I'm trying to keep it general for everyone watching. So what you should do is find yourself a rabbi. Tell your rabbi where you are at. Anyway, your rabbi will get to know you. And then you ask him, first of all, what should I learn? And how should I learn it? How should I acquire this knowledge? And then he will guide you. And that is what you do. And if you hear something new or something that you think, ooh, this sounds interesting, Andalusian Old Sephardic methodology, maybe you go look this up or you watch a video on YouTube about this, very excited. Then you go to your rabbi and you say, Rabbi, I have seen this Old Sephardic methodology and maybe, what do you think? Maybe I should learn this style. And maybe he'll ask you a couple of questions about it depending on the rabbi. But whatever he decides, that is what. Now, we have a question on the live stream of Jib R, who is a regular in these live streams, must be said, so welcome. Again, can you explain why many Orthodox consider conservative not real Judaism when they do study Mishnayot and follow Halakha, the most lenient opinion? Well, if they follow the most lenient opinion, then they would still be Orthodox. just Dati Lumi, modern Orthodox. So, look, if you are born of a Jewish mother, or you performed a kosher conversion process, then you are Jewish. The reason why we question people's Judaism with Reform, Masorti, Conservative, is because they marry out. They marry non-Jews. And so we do not know for sure if they are Jewish, meaning if you, according to you, they are keeping halakha. So halakha means that they are keeping Shabbos. They're not driving to shul chas v'shalom, because that's lighting a fire, by all opinions. The most lenient opinion is saying that's lighting a fire. So they must be Shomer Shabbos. Shomer Shabbos, a guardian of the Shabbos law, is that's like you must do this to many Jewish laws goes around this concept. So if you are not Shomer Shabbos, if you are not guarding Shabbos laws, keeping it, then, like I said, Chulin 5a, you can look it up in the Talmud, the Shulchan Aruch, which is the codified book of Jewish law, the Mishnah Berurah, which is from 100 years ago from the Chofetz Chaim. All sources would tell you that if you do not keep Shabbat, then you cannot be an aid, you cannot be a witness to anything. You cannot stand there and watch how someone puts a ring on a finger. We actually do it with this finger. Because you are not qualified to be a witness. So again, we're going backwards here. But if a conservative rabbi, there needs to be 3, by the way, 3 judges. If one of them does not keep Shabbos, meaning driving to shul, which I've heard is very common in conservative Judaism, then if he himself does not keep the law, Shabbos laws, any of the Shabbos laws, then he cannot be a kosher witness to anything. Not even making sure a ring goes on a finger, which is a very simple thing to do. He cannot witness that. He cannot sign on anything. So how can he say that this woman is now Jewish according to him and his conversion program? You get the logic? Cannot be. So now this woman has children, which that synagogue would consider Jewish because they believe in this conversion program, for example. Now we, from the beginning, didn't believe that she is Jewish because she didn't undergo a kosher conversion program. So maybe if you could study Mishnah Yot. I can tell you there's people in Bar Ilan University in Israel that study Talmud, Mishnah Yot, Jewish law, and they are completely not religious. They do it as an academic study. So the fact that you're learning doesn't mean it will impact you, depending on how you study it. I study all these books. Not all of them, I should study all of them. But I study the little bit that I study, and I study it because it's the Word of God. I want to know what God wants me to do. They study it not as the Word of God. They study it as an opinion, as an academic process, as a tradition that is developing over time. Yes, in the old days you couldn't light a fire on Shabbos, but today is different because it's easy. Now what they're saying in that sentence is that God did not know when He gave us the Torah that one day there will be a time when it will be very easy to light a fire. You see what they're saying? They're saying God did not know. So they do not believe it's from God. That is the essence of their problem. They believe it's, what's the sentence they used to tell me? It's man-made and God-inspired or something like this, which Doesn't make any sense, but that is what they are saying. So that is why we don't hold that they are Jewish anything. By the way, the state of Israel will say they're Jewish. But the state of Israel does not decide on Jewish law. So now we've got another question or statement from Tindler. This is in the live stream. That's saying there are tons of Masorti. Again, Masorti means traditional shuls. A shul is a synagogue. It's actually Yiddish for school. That are very similar to the more modern Orthodox. You can see Tindler is already adding that extra layer, meaning they are no longer modern Orthodox, they modern Orthodox. Such a category doesn't exist, by the way. It's all very simple. Do you keep Shabbos laws or not? How do you know what is Shabbos laws? Shabbos laws is written in the Talmud, Masechet Shabbat, and it's also in the Shulchan Aruch, the codified book of Jewish law, which all Jews agreed is the codified book of Jewish law. No one ever disputed this book. The Yemenites doesn't hold by the Shulchan Aruch, that's true. They hold by the Mishneh Torah, which is these books here above, from the Rambam, Rabbi Maimonides, Moshe ben Maimon. Again, but he's saying the same thing about Shabbos that the Shulchan Aruch is saying about Shabbos. 60% of the Shulchan Aruch is from the Rambam. The split came with Rabbi Moshe Mendelssohn, who started the Haskalah movement, the Enlightenment movement. He went to university, started adopting all sorts of new ideas. By the way, he was an Orthodox Jew. That time there was nothing else. You were just Jewish. But Jewish meant that you kept Shabbos, kosher, Chagim, the festivals. That was all there was. After his death, this rolled on, this Haskalah movement, the Enlightenment movement, and it became what it is today. So you have a lot of sins on him because he started it. He died Orthodox because he kept Shabbos, kept kosher by most opinions. So if you're saying that you know a modern Orthodox shul that is traditional, meaning they don't keep Shabbos, or people drive, then it's not... Look, it can be that the shul itself, let's maybe make this also clear. I come from a shul in South Africa, in Sea Point. Now, most Jews in South Africa, especially in Cape Town, Sea Point, is not religious. Meaning, they don't keep Shabbos. Some actually do keep kosher in their house, but don't keep kosher outside the house. Makes no sense. But this is how they hold. They obviously are not religious. They do not keep Shabbos and they do not keep kosher laws. But they go to an Orthodox synagogue. In the shul that I was part of is a modern Orthodox synagogue. The synagogue, the policy of the rabbi, of the board members, is that we keep Shabbos laws, kosher laws, we keep the festivals, you cannot violate any of the laws publicly. But many of the congregants, the people that come to the synagogue, they keep nothing. They are secular. They are not religious. Or I prefer the term Masorti. They are traditional, meaning they still tie to the tradition, but they don't keep the laws. This doesn't mean that the shul isn't orthodox. This means that the people that attend the shul is not orthodox or modern orthodox. So I think that's also a distinction that you should make. Obviously, a rabbi that is in charge of such a community should try to encourage the people to keep the laws of the Torah. And often they do not. which I had many issues with, because I felt that is something that should be spoken more about. The fact that Shabbos isn't kept by everyone here, or a lot of them don't keep Shabbos. Then you get all sorts of theories that we're afraid you're going to turn them off. We're going to turn them off if we tell them exactly what is written if you don't keep Shabbos. And then there's the other side of the argument which says you can't turn something off more than off. If I put this light off, it's off. Yeah, that's the same. If you don't keep Shabbos, you are off. You cannot be more off than that. How do I put you more off? You are already not keeping the most fundamental law. It says, if in the Torah itself it's written, if you do not keep Shabbos, you will die mot yumat. It says you will die twice, basically in Hebrew. How can you die twice? You die, you're dead. Can't die twice. Because you will die in this world and the world to come. You will lose your share in the world to come. It says in Perkei Avot, Kol lahem chelek leolam haba. Kol Israel yesh lahem chelek leolam haba. To all Israel there is a part to them who has a share in the world to come. This is the start of the Mishnah. In Perkei Avot is the last order of the Talmud, of the oral law. But after that it gives you the exceptions of those that do not have a share in the world to come, which many people don't continue to read. If you continue to read, you will have a list of who loses their share in the world to come. And one of them is if you do not keep Shabbos. And again, what's so difficult about keeping Shabbos? In today's world, you leave your lights on. The lights that you want to leave on, you put them on before Shabbos. They stay on. You didn't violate Shabbos. You put on your blech, your warm plate. You cook all your food before Shabbos. You put them on the blech. And they're warm. And you eat delicious food on Shabbos. You have drinks. You have people over. You don't drive. You don't watch TV. You don't use any electronics, which by most opinions either building, because in electric circuit, once you put something on, you are closing the circuit. For those that have any engineering background or just knows electricity, that's building, considered building, and many people consider it fire. Because what is electricity? When you get shocked by electricity, what happens with you? Physically. You get burnt. Why burnt? From all the things that can happen to you, why burnt? Why is your flesh burnt? Because it is like fire. So you have both. Either it's building, which is a very easy one to say because the circuit was incomplete, and now when something gets turned on, now it is complete. So you're certainly building. It's also the final hammer blow, which is also one of the 39 malachot. So definitely you're doing something when you're using electricity. And what's the big deal one day not to use electronics? To sit a little bit, chat with your wife or your family, your kids, not stuck with your screen, watching TV. I don't get what is so difficult. Okay, so you can't, people say, but I stay far from the synagogue. To go to the synagogue is a rabbinic decree. It's from the rabbis. The rabbis that reform, conservative, Masorti, most of them hate Orthodox rabbis. You can ask, but I think that will be the majority opinion. These same Orthodox rabbis said you must go to a synagogue. This they follow. But the Torah that tells you shall not light a fire, ignition, doesn't take a rocket scientist. Think logically. When you start your car, if your starter is broken, what do you check normally? Check your starter and you check your spark plugs. The spark plugs makes a spark. This is fire, by the way. Old days you used to take two rocks A spark comes out, that's the ignition. Spark plugs. That's why it's called spark plugs, make sparks. This is what ignites your car to drive. That's lighting a fire on Shabbos. Not to mention, opening the car door, light goes on. Closing the car door, light goes off. That is either building or final hammer blow. Now you are violating a Torah law. It says in the Torah, you shall not light a fire in your dwelling place. It says in the Torah, you shall not leave your place. Meaning you can't go a certain distance from where you live. If there's no Eruv. This is in Masechet Eruvin. Now you're going to violate the Torah because you want to keep a darabanan, the same darabanan that you do not hold by. Doesn't make sense. So, I went off on a tangent there. But it is important because I get these questions so often, especially in Israel. And also I got it a lot. This one question reminded me now of my... So, Lieutenant Gregory Stevens, I'm assuming it's Lieutenant, asking, can you ride a horse to shul? Again, I'm gonna try to this time say it shorter and more to the point. Going to a synagogue is the Rabbanan. It was said by the rabbis that is the place where we should go after the destruction of the second temple. Ezra, the scribe, he instituted that we should assemble in synagogues where we can come together, keep together. It's a derabanan. It is not written in the Torah. The Torah is written 3 times a year. You must go to the temple, which is Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. You must go to the temple. And also, even in those times, many people sent a representative. It's not like the whole Israel went. You send representative. We learned this in Yoma, me and my chavruta. Anyway, it's a darabanan to go to a synagogue. In the Torah, you cannot drive to a synagogue. Now it's true that you can actually technically ride an animal. Technically, I'm saying, you should hold on before you, don't click off now. Technically, you can ride an animal, but the rabbis prohibited you riding an animal. Why? The rabbis were afraid that to spur this animal on, you are going to go take a stick, you're going to break off the stick, and then you are going to hit the animal, which you are not allowed to do on Shabbos. There's also the whole thing of making your animal rest. This is a little bit more complicated to explain. But if you're interested in how this works, then it's very interesting and you should learn it out starting from the Torah, going into the Talmud, Jewish oral law, going to the Mishnah Torah from the Rambam 1,000 years ago, going to the Mishnah Brura, which is 100 years ago. Very interesting, but to make it simple for the general public, no, you cannot ride a... Okay, now Jib R is saying or asking in the live stream about intermarriage. He's now saying, DNA shows that half of the Ashkenazim, including Charedim, are descendant to 25/35% from Roman, Italian, maternal line. Maybe intermarriage wasn't such a big thing a long time ago. So I'm not sure if that is true. And even if it were true, I'm not sure how you will tell if it's from the maternal line or the father's or the paternal line. Just talking genetics here. I'm very interested in genetics. But DNA shows you absolutely nothing about your Jewish heritage. Also, it could be that, I think you are trying to say that in the old days intermarriage didn't matter. It very much did matter. If your mother is not Jewish, you are not Jewish, unless you converted. It could be that, I'm not sure all the nationalities you mentioned here, Roman and Italians, that they converted. So then the maternal line, according to DNA, would be non-Jewish, but they are halachically fully Jewish if they underwent a halachically valid conversion process, which in the old times was much different. I've covered this in many of my videos, but there's many famous converts, by the way, in the tradition. Ruth, the book of Ruth, she was a convert. She converted. So she wasn't Jewish and she became Jewish. Let's take a few other examples. Onkelos. Someone asked me actually the other day, on my videos where the Torah is read with this Rabbi Uriel Suleiman, there's a block, if you notice, there's a block called Onkelos. Onkelos was a convert that lived in the Second Temple period. So there's Shammai and Avtalion, who were two converts who received the tradition. The tradition was carried over by them to the next generation. So there's many converts. So I wouldn't go by DNA. Also, what is pure Jewish DNA? I think it's very difficult. Also, I think the Arabs, if you think about it, Abraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov. Now, Abraham also married the Egyptian, Hagar, and Ishmael, which is part of Abraham's DNA, at least. And there's also Esav, who is definitely, Esav was the brother of Yaakov. Now, it says in the Torah that he married the descendants of Ishmael. Now, you've got a mother that's Muslim later on. Islam didn't exist then. Islam is only 1,400 years old. It's like a baby brother, this Muslims. Where Christianity, 2,000 years old, Judaism, 3,400 years old. Now this is even before this, before the Torah was given. So then we had Ishmael, who was the half-brother of Yitzchak. Yitzchak had Yaakov and Esav, and Esav married the descendants of Ishmael. So there you will have a mother that's clearly, but then also he split into a different nation, Edom. But from where do you start now this DNA analysis? This is what I'm trying to ask you. It would be interesting, but we don't go by DNA. We go by... Yeah, Jabbar is just saying thank you, and he's saying that that also Rabbi Akiva's parents, yes, Rabbi Akiva's father, by most opinions, was also a convert. So it's full of converts. Once you get to know, if you go into, if you learn a little bit more, Joshua, King Joshua, who entered the land of Israel, by most opinions, he married a convert. So all his descendants are Jews, but the mother converted. You get what I'm saying? So I can tell you I've walked into many synagogues. I've obviously lived in South Africa. I was in Leipzig for a congress, Israel, and my story is very public that I'm a convert. I've spoken a lot about it. I'm not shy about it. When I get called up to the Torah, they call you by your Hebrew name. I'm Shayel Moshe. And then most people call you Ben Avraham because they know you're a convert, but they don't want to say Ben Avraham Avinu, which means the son of Avraham, our father, because then everyone knows you're a convert. You could be Shayel Moshe Ben Avraham, and your father was fully Jewish, and his name was Avraham. So I tell them, don't call me like this. You must call me Shayel Moshe Ben Avraham Avinu. For me, it's an honor that I am a descendant of Avraham Avinu. So because I get called up like this, so obviously then there's like people like, oh, you know, there's like a little bit of a noise because normally it isn't really done. Other converts don't make it so public. And a lot of people come to me and tell me, sure, you know, it's very good that you insist that you be called up by our father's name. This is now Avraham Avinu. And then they tell me, you know, my mother converted, or I converted, or my wife converted. There is a lot of converts, basically. Not all of them is going to share it, you know, to the world, but there is a lot of Jewish converts. And it's been the same way throughout the ages. So that is where we're going to leave it. We did start a little bit late, but I think we did the hour that I promised. So we're going to do this, B'ezrat Hashem, God willing, every Yom Rishon, every Sunday at 9:30 Israel time. And obviously I work for the Israeli government, I work for the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of Health, the National Insurance Fund, and Medical Aids. And I'm also the video editor for Rabbi David Lappin and the Renana Community Kollel. So whenever I have too much work, then we will postpone but to the next week. But I have told myself that we must do this so I can get through all the. So thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great week. Shavua Tov in Hebrew. Shavua is week, Tov is good. And also Chodesh Tov. Chodesh is month, Tov is good, a good month. We've just entered a new month, which is Shvat. And let's hope it's a better month than the previous month. We obviously still at war in Gaza, in the south with Hezbollah. And fortunately we have a lot of people, a lot of soldiers that's dying and a lot of injuries. I'm personally dealing in my role with the government with these injuries. Some of them are extremely difficult. And we just had a soldier buried in Renana today. Young guy, 24 years old. Dan was his name. And, you know, we're in our ancestral homeland where many people in the past have given their lives in many wars. We fought with the Greeks, we fought with the Romans, we fought with the Babylonians, and we are still here. We are actually, by the way, some inside information. Me and my wife is considering moving, not God forbid, out of Israel. Chas v'shalom, God forbid. We will never leave Israel. But we are currently living in Renana, which is in the center of Israel. A very well-developed city, very Anglo-friendly, very good for people that speak my English. My Hebrew has improved. So we are thinking of moving to the settlements, which the Western world calls the settlements. We call it the Shomron and Judea, which is Samaria in the biblical times, and Judah. We're actually thinking of the region of Benjamin. And we have been looking at it, and we visited many settlements. You'll notice that from some of the photos that we've published. It wasn't just sightseeing, it was investigating where we want to live and really settle. Because we feel that Renana has been great for us, been a supportive community in Renana, but we feel that we want to now find a place where we want to permanently and please God raise our children. And that's also why we're looking for a place that's a little bit more chardal, more towards the approach to Judaism. So we'll keep you up to date. So whenever you see these photos in my community section, now you will know a little bit more what's up with that. So thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for joining me and allowing me to answer some of your questions. And please God, next week we will